Google is the Brett Favre of the smartphone world, capable of absolute greatness, but also capable of the most mind-numbingly stupid things you've ever seen. To the point where you're sitting there scratching your head saying, if only you weren't so dumb, what could have been? And, you know, I want to do this week-long review of the Pixel 8a. And the coverage and the narrative surrounding this device absolutely drives me nuts. And I can't blame the reviewers or the journalists who are taking this particular angle on the Pixel 8a because it's Google's fault. Google created this kind of awkwardness with its smartphone lineup by offering the Pixel 8 for $550 for X amount of months before the launch of the Pixel 8, and then changing it to the point where you can't get the Pixel 8 for that price anymore. It's back up to $700 and say, oh, we'll take this one for $500. So naturally, people are going to sit there like they did last year and say, wait a minute, why wouldn't I just wait and get a Pixel 8? So Google's put itself in a position where people aren't buying the Pixel 8 because they want to wait for it to go on sale again. And also, they're not buying the Pixel 8a because they're waiting for A, that to go on sale, or B, for the Pixel 8 to go on sale. So they're saying, why would I pick this up when I could just wait a little? It's a mess, and it's a self-created mess. And the annoying part of it for me is it's stopping people from talking about what should be the story of the Pixel 8a, and that is that it's actually a charming phone that's well put together, that's actually pretty darn good, especially when you consider the price point of $500. There's a lot here to like, especially if you're a Pixel fan. But instead of spending column inches and minutes on YouTube reviews, including this one, talking about how good the Pixel 8a is, we're talking about how you shouldn't buy it because you should be buying something else. I want to take a little bit different tact here to this phone because, one, this is going to be the carrier phone. This is going to be the one that you get for $5 a month on AT&T. This is the one that you're going to get for free with a sign up for 24 or 30 months on T-Mobile or Verizon or something like that. I don't think that's going to necessarily be the Pixel 8, certainly not once the Pixel 9 rolls around. So this is the phone that you're going to want to look at because a lot of people are going to get a really great deal on this particular device. So let's talk about the positives of it because there are quite a few. Number one, the build. I happen to like it. Smaller form factor. It's light. It's thin. It's curved in a certain way. The display is flat, but the back is curved, so it's pleasant to hold in the hand, much like the Pixel 8 Pro is. I really like that design element. I like the plastic on it. I like the fact that I don't have to put a case on it. I don't know how many people in yesterday's video comparing it to the A55, but also in comparison to the Pixel 8 and others, saying they prefer the plastic bag, especially when it's a matte plastic. It's not going to be a fingerprint magnet. There's a lot to like here on this particular device. So if you like it, you could carry it without a case, not worrying about it shattering. It has a nice feel to it. It keeps the device light. So there are plenty of benefits to a plastic builder. We're not talking about cheap plastic either. This feels actually pretty good. It's not plastic from 40 years ago that's going to snap or get brittle and all the rest of it. This is actually pretty good. Performance. It's a Tensor 3, okay? And we can sit back and forth and mock a Tensor all we want about benchmarks, and that's fine, and there's something to that, especially when it comes to gaming. But now we're talking about a very different price point. We're talking about $500. We're not talking about $1,000. We're not talking about $1,200 up against a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. We're talking about a device that typically goes up against mid-range Exynos or mid-range Snapdragons. This is a phone that can definitely, most certainly go toe-to-toe with those, if not best them in the mid-range. And that's all Google's asking you to pay, that mid-range price. They're not asking you to pay $1,000 or $800 or even $700 that the Pixel 8 is currently at. They're asking you to pay $500 for that. You get a lot there for that. You get the computational photography. You get the Magic Editor. You get all the stuff that you're going to get the Gemini Nano at some point once they figure it out. So you're going to get a lot of that computational power behind it for a price point that you typically wouldn't get that at. 8 gigs of RAM, pretty good as well. Then there's the camera, and I'll put up a couple sample shots. And really the takeaway from the camera is this. This is what I saw. Out of all the devices in the mid-range that I've used recently, this is closest to what I actually saw. Color-wise, accuracy, lighting, all the rest of it. So take that for what you will. I know a lot of people were complaining about the fact that they put the 64-megapixel older sensor in the 8A. That's the thing they've been doing for a while. They've been doing that on the A series for years now, putting the older generation sensor in there. Doesn't matter. The computational stuff is still good. Is it as good as the Pixel 8? Perhaps not, especially in low light. But for the $500 price range, if you compare it to everything else that's out there, it does a pretty darn good job. It is a typically good Pixel camera. Battery life, not the best, okay? It does carry, it's a 45 milliamp hour roughly battery. The Tensor G3 is better with overheating, and what does that mean? Better with power efficiency. So it's pretty good. Gets to 6 hours of screen on time easily, more than I could say about the outgoing Pixel 7a. So in that case, I'm fine. You get me over 6 hours, I'm good. I'm not gonna eat your lunch for that. You get me over 6 hours, I'm okay. You can stretch it. You know, I keep the brightness pretty high. You could do a bunch of things there to kind of save battery, but the battery is good. 7 years of software support. That's something. There's something to be said for that at $500. You don't see that at $500. You don't see that in the mid-range. And, you know, a few months from now, you're going to get this for $400, $375. You don't see 7 years of support. And it's going to be decent support. You know, it's not going to be garbage support. Are you going to get the latest and greatest whatever features or whatever magic, whatever they're coming up with? No, probably not. But you're going to get some feature drops. You're going to get some optimization, because that's the other thing that's kind of stuck in with these security patches. It's not like these small OEMs that just throw out security patches and say, oh, well, we fixed a vulnerability, whatever. These companies are optimizing with the patches as well. So you're going to sit there and get a reasonably optimized phone for 7 years in advance. It's going to help the resale value. It's going to help if you want to, you know, if you spend $500 and you're going to hold on to this thing forever, whatever it happens to be. There's a lot there to like, and more support's better. Don't tell me you don't need it or you don't care about it. Companies are offering it, so take it. You know, I very rarely see somebody go up to a business or a window and say, excuse me, I don't really need this. Can I give it back even though I'm paying for it? No, you don't do that. So don't do it here. Don't say, well, I only really need the 4 years of support. I'll go buy something. It makes a difference. It might not matter to you, but for other people, it actually has some value. Fingerprint sensor much better than the other ones. I know a lot of people will be coming not necessarily from a 7A, but from a 6A. And if you had that at the beginning, that was more of a software issue. They used a different sensor. Personally, I think the whole Pixel 6 thing with the fingerprint sensor was software, period, ended. I did a couple videos on that back in the day. But, however, they used a different sensor for the Pixel 6a, and this one, of course, is generations beyond that. So I think that and face unlock on this device works well, pretty snappy. So you're not going to have those problems getting into the system that you had in previous years. The modem's much better as well. Last year, I had nothing but problems with the modem. I get good signal strength in areas where I should get signal strength. I have no problem connecting to 5G. I have no problem with it switching off. That was the problem last year. For some reason, when 5G dropped out and it couldn't get a 5G signal, it just told me I didn't have a signal instead of switching over to 4G LTE. This one switches over no problem on AT&T. Not an issue. Whenever I drop out a 5G signal, it throws up the LTE, and I'm good to go, and I still have pretty fast service, so really no issues there. So the modem, whether it's the Tensor modem or Exynos did better, I don't know what they did, but it's significantly better than it had been on these devices. So if that's a concern for you, don't worry about that either. So there's plenty to like on the Pixel 8a, and it's really disappointing to me that the narrative kind of went towards the pricing and the Pixel 8 and all the rest of it, because that's where the energy went. That's where the juice went. That's the argument that people latched onto. Not whether you should get it over a 12R, not whether you should get it over an A55, not whether you should get it over a 7A or save some money or something like that. Things that I think that the 8A would at least hold its ground. We could at least fight. You know, we could do battle on those arguments. The pricing thing is just an own goal. It's just dumb. And that's why, you know, Google, you love them, but at the same time, you hate them because they do so many stupid things, and it's their own fault. Like Favre throwing into quadruple coverage in the playoffs to lose a game. You know, you wonder why you could see it coming. What are you doing? Same thing here with Google, and specifically the launch of the Pixel 8a. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.